beginning of envy is in our pride. But the beginning of pride, right, is actually coming from our lust. And this lust is the desire to enjoy sense gratification. The moment we want to enjoy our senses without Krishna, that becomes lust. When we want to enjoy our senses in the service of Krishna, it becomes love. So there's a difference. When we are running after something without Krishna, it is lust. But when we are running after something but it is for Krishna, it is actually love. So therefore, when pride actually comes in our heart, when we don't want to do the activity for Krishna, when we're very absorbed with ourselves, and when we're very absorbed with our body, and the fact that we think that everything is in relation to our body. So the root cause of envy is actually this attachment to the body, or the ignorance that we are this body. That's why Sri Prabhupada said, all our problems start when we identify ourselves with the body and not the spirit. That's the root cause of envy. Another interesting question. If envy cannot be used in devotional service, because we said that there is no place for envy in the spiritual world, right? Then why did Krishna create envy? Interesting question. The truth of the matter is, Krishna never created envy. He sanctions everything that happens, but we have created envy in our hearts. We are also mini creators. We create so many things, but these are all barriers between us and Krishna. So please don't be mistaken that Krishna created the quality of envy. No, actually envy comes because we have decided to be separate from Krishna. All the qualities that are present in this material world have naturally been sanctioned by Krishna, and Krishna's energy has created it, no doubt. This material world is a product of the material energy of Krishna. But that does not mean that actually Krishna creates something bad. No. We have a choice to be envious, or we have a choice not to be envious. So what is more important is, how do we exercise our choice? That is very important. It's just like telling the world, why did Krishna create criminals? If you ask the criminals, why did God create you? They wouldn't know how to answer it. Because in the first place, they are responsible for their own actions. Aren't we all responsible for our own actions? Can we turn to Krishna and say, oh, I slapped someone, but actually it's not my fault. Krishna created, the ability to slap, so I'm just slapping you. That is criminal thinking. So we should be very careful, right? Not to go back to the idea that Krishna creates everything. So why must he create the bad ones? No. We have a choice. In this material world, whatever we say, we all have a choice. You have a choice to come to the retreat. Krishna didn't put a gun to your head and ask you to come here. And definitely Shamdev didn't put a gun to your head and ask you to come here also. Right? Everybody came here on their own accord. So this is the free will that we have. Okay? Now, there's another one that has come in. If everyone are the children of God, why does this one make us sit separately, like Mataji's over there and Prabhu's over here? Okay, that's a good question. But the answer to it is very straightforward. We may all believe, and it is true, that we all are a parcel of God. But because we have material vision, we must also learn how to discipline our senses. And in this material world, the greatest challenge is the attraction between man and woman. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, it is very nicely stated, right, that woman is like fire and man is like butter. And if you put them together, then what happens is, it's very easy for them to forget Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada created a society where men, women, children, everyone can come and worship Krishna. But they should be worshipping Krishna. They should not be engaging in sense gratification. And that is why there is proper decorum between men and women. Then there is a scenario that this devotee has asked. If we are outside and we are doing some shopping, and then we are hungry, and our journey back home is very long, We decide to eat in a hotel, but there is no pure vegetarian food. We accidentally buy a cake for dessert that has egg, and without knowing it, we eat it. Is this considered a sin? Good question. Generally speaking, devotees try to avoid eating outside for the same reasons that you have asked. But sometimes, even if we try very hard, there are always times when sometimes in situations we may inadvertently break some of the very basic principles, especially when it comes to food actually. And so what happens is, if we have done it in an accidental way, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, our Shastras say, we can seek forgiveness from Krishna. Krishna will not strike us down with a download or some lightning, If anything is done in an accidental fashion, there is always room for improvement and growth in Krishna consciousness. That's the principle behind this festivity, right? So that's very important. Supposing we were swimming yesterday, and suddenly our father and mother says that we have to attend a program at chanting in the morning at 5 a.m. and we are very, very tired. We want to get up early, but we do not wake up early easily. What can we do? Continue sleeping. It's okay. Obviously, Krishna won't get angry if you don't come down to chanting between 5 and 6. It's alright. Sometimes we're tired. It happens. But it is so nice that someone this young is worried about such things actually. Right? So, parents, if you're here, you know who is writing this, but I won't tell you who it is. Then please, sometimes as parents, we want our children to become very expert in Krishna consciousness. And we want them to be expert very quickly. We are in a rush, but we forget for the better part of our lives, we will not even do this. We broke all the regulating principles. We did everything. We had our own good time, but we want to deny our children that time to grow in Krishna consciousness. So we should be very careful about how we introduce Krishna consciousness to our children. If they become tired of the way we push them, they will leave Krishna consciousness. Or they will get so tired of it that they won't come to the programs. So you must be able to give that balance between giving them the encouragement to come for programs and be Krishna conscious and always trying to not push them too hard. That's very important. Chanting Krishna's names makes me feel sleepy. What should I do? If you feel sleepy and you're chanting Krishna's names, then maybe it is in the morning, you're tired, maybe you should get a bit more rest and then you can chant. And that will be good. Bhakti Chandra Maharaj once told us in the lecture that the best cure for insomnia is to sit down for Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning. He told us that. He said that if you want to really cure insomnia, just sit for Bhagavatam class in the morning and you will go to sleep. The truth is, the chanting of the holy name is very powerful. And that's why you see young children, they go to sleep very fast. But try as far as possible to chant Krishna's names in a way where you are alert. Okay, next question. Can we publish a book, PowerPoint video on the history of our movement in Singapore? The reason is to appreciate more our senior devotees, their sacrifices and efforts. That is why because of which we have a proper center in Singapore. Of course, I wish we had a bigger, better place of our own, but we can work with this for now. This is very nice. Yes, actually we have a documentary about Singapore that was done by Devakinandan. It's an excellent documentary. It's gone around the world, and so many people have heard it and become inspired by it. But what we could do is we could chronicle, right, the experiences of the older devotees and highlight and spotlight what they did and how it was in the beginning years of Krishna consciousness in Singapore. I think that is something that is worth doing actually. So that's a very good idea. So that's what we should do. Next one is very kind to us. We can of course absorb that kindness, but in order to make sure that we don't just think of that as an equal friend, always be ready to serve the senior devotees. That is my experience actually, and that's the experience of many devotees. If you serve a senior devotee, always remembering that they are very kind to you, that they know so you will find that that friendship that you have with them will always be very congenial. But you take away the service aspect, then you will find that you will become very familiar with them. And that goes to all of us, brothers and sisters. Even if we are equals, frankly speaking, we should always never lose the mood of trying to serve each other. In service, you will find true friendship. That is very important. There's another question here. We discussed envy amongst devotees. What about envy in the corporate world? It seems we cannot so-called succeed in the material world if we do not compete, driven by envy. We'll be left behind and even lose our job. Not true. Not true at all. I know the most successful devotees in the world are working in corporate worlds and corporate jobs. They compete, but they are not envious. There is a difference between competition and envy. Because envy means I want what you want. We don't want what they want. We need to work to sustain our family, to do the best we want. Our ambition is only for that cause. As a devotee, we compete because we want to be the best devotee we can be, because Krishna is our employer. The problem in the corporate world for devotees is when we still think, right, our employers are our employees. That is a problem. Because Bhagavad tells us that actually we should dedicate all our results to Krishna. If all our results are dedicated to Krishna, then who is our employer actually? Our big boss is actually Krishna. So when a devotee works for Krishna, he doesn't shirk from competition in the material world. If I have to fight a case and my opponent is there, of course I can compete with my opponent. But I don't compete with him on the basis of being personally envious of him. No. That envy is not there. I wish him the best, but I will do my best. And what happens if I do my best? The result is up to Krishna. If we think that way, we will not be sucked into the idea of competition is envy. And envy must exist when competition exists. No, it doesn't have to actually. It doesn't have to. Please remember that. When you compete in the material world, you compete very often on the basis of hankering for what others have. But when we compete in the spiritual world and put that in the material world, we are not competing because someone has a better job or a better deal than us. We are competing because we want to please Krishna as the best worker we can be. We cannot determine results for those parties. We can't. We can't. Sometimes we think when we compete, then only we will get a promotion. That's not true. That again is a fallacy. You can compete till the cows come home. But if Krishna doesn't want to give you that promotion, you will get that promotion. Result is never in your hands. So correct application of devotional Sanskrit principles will save you from mistake. If you don't apply the principles of Bhagavad Gita or you mistake the principles of Bhagavad Gita, then you will think that in the corporate world, we also have to be there. So this is a very good question, and I think it's something that we always remember. Next question. In the beginning, we are attentive in our japa and artis and kirtan. But once we have memorized our arti and japa becomes daily routine, then the mind starts doing multitasking. How to control it? This is something that we are all being challenged, isn't it? It's such a good question. Actually, there is no easy way out of this. Because again, whatever we become familiar with, we will take for granted. All we can do, brothers and sisters, is every morning, before you start your chanting, please pray to Krishna. That Krishna, let me not be offensive in your chanting. Please pray to Krishna that Krishna, please give me love of God when I start chanting. Even if it becomes mechanical, it doesn't matter. Better to say it than not to say it. Because if you say it and you feel for it, then you just test it. Your chanting will become much more effective. When we stand for arati, and we know sometimes we are tired in the evening, we've come back from work, but we still have to do the arati. Early morning arati, even more difficult because we are so tired. We don't even know how many rounds we did. We don't even know whether we did the chant first or the fan next. These things happen. But We are trying. We are trying our best. Remember, Krishna is known as Bhava Grahi Janardana. He is one who takes the essence of the devotion and eternity. He is not interested in perfection, but he is interested in purity. If you have purity of intention, even if there are discrepancies, Krishna will accept your offering. If you want to be very, very expert, but your mood is not to please Krishna, then Krishna will not accept that. He will not accept that. So, thank you for the questions. Very good questions. Now let me see. Let me take this one. If everything is will of Krishna, why are we subjected to karma? Good, very good question. Everything is the will of Krishna, but we are in the material energy of the Lord. We must remember that we also have a mind of our own, and Krishna has given us what we call free will. And because He has given us free will, therefore we have the right to exercise the free will. This is what Krishna has given us. Therefore, we cannot say that everything is the will of Krishna. Then what is the purpose of our existence? We will just become robots. But we are not robots. That is why there is the law of karma. Because the law of karma is a check and balance on how we behave ourselves. If we behave well, good actions will accrue from good thoughts, or good results will accrue from good actions. So the law of karma operates in this world under the material energy of the world. And it either rewards someone or it punishes someone. Therefore, we cannot say that because everything is will of karma, everything is the will of Krishna, therefore there is no need for the law of karma. If there is no need for the law of karma, we will become irresponsible in our actions. We will never feel the weight and the consequences of what we do. So actually Krishna is very expert. He has given us the free will, but through the law of karma and material nature, He checks us. And eventually some of us will start thinking, why am I stuck in this cycle of karma? Is there something more that I can do? And then we will start taking up the journey of spiritual life. So that is the simple answer. Yes, the will of Krishna is there. Karma is very powerful, but at the same time, if Krishna wants to change the course of your life, He can change it like that. This is very important. Karma is not stronger than Krishna. If karma was stronger than Krishna, then we will be doing arati for karma. But we don't. We do it for Krishna. Please remember that. Srila Prabhupada once was asked, someone came to read palms, right? And then they were reading the palms, and then someone came to Srila Prabhupada, the disciples, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, what do you think of this astrology or palm reading or palmistry? Does it work? Is it accurate? And Srila Prabhupada said, all you have to do is just keep clapping during Kirtan. If you clap during Kirtan, all your palmistry or whatever readings that are there, they will just change. Devotees are not stuck or not prone or not caught by all these theories. If you take up devotional service, you will come out of the laws of karma. So don't be worried whether this is your good time, your bad time. In good times and bad times, Krishna consciousness is always more powerful than karma. Please remember that. That's very important. Okay, next question. How do we deal with not being able to obtain a taste of bhakti or doing service? I feel nice hearing classes and kirtan, but beyond a point sometimes I get bored. I can't have the urge to endlessly want to do service. What can I do? How to deal okay, that's the next one. Okay, so I can't have the urge to endlessly want to do service. What can I do? Frankly speaking, if you have the desire to endlessly do service, it's really, really a problem. Right? Many of us have a limitation to what we're doing. But that's okay. We do what we can. If we can chant 16 rounds and lovingly offer it to Krishna, Krishna is pleased. If you can hear Kirtan for maybe a few minutes and that's it, that's okay. If you want to hear Bhagavatam for 20 minutes and that's all you can take for now, it's okay. But just keep doing it regularly. That's the important. if you do it regularly, if you do it with your heart, the next time you do your one mala, you will have taste to do another one. So quantity is not important in Krishna consciousness. It's not how many hours you spend in Krishna consciousness that's important. It is how you make an hour count in Krishna consciousness. That is very important. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, I would prefer one moon than many stars. Because stars are very light in terms of brightness. But one moon is good. So don't be discouraged that you don't have to taste long kirtans and long lectures. It will come. But you must regulate your activities. Not hear the kirtan when you feel like hearing, or hear a lecture when you feel like hearing. No. Every day put aside time to hear about Krishna. That will actually elevate your enjoyment and your taste of Krishna consciousness. That's why in 264 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the words that is used by Krishna is the regulative principles of freedom. We are free to do what we want in Krishna consciousness, but it is highly regulated. That purifies us. Following the regulative principles purifies us. Putting aside time for one purifies us. It also gives us peace. Very important. Second question. How to deal with a fellow devotee who unintentionally, made a statement that hurt us? I think the word that we use is very important, unintentionally. If you know a devotee did not intend to hurt you, then please forgive the devotee. Please forgive the devotee. You know, the single most important part of Krishna consciousness is to learn to forgive devotees and to forgive people. Forgiveness is so important in Krishna consciousness. Because if you don't know how to forgive someone, that means you're very attached to your pride, you're very attached to who you are, and you're very envious sometimes of that person. So we have to be very careful. Some devotees will take up Krishna consciousness in such a way that even though they are hurt by someone, they will tolerate. They will accept. They will understand. They will appreciate, and they will forgive. This is the way to grow in Krishna service. Why is it Krishna pleased to meet you? Why is it there? No, it is not there because humility and tolerance is a virtue. No, it is there because the real reason it is there is so that we learn how not to become so attached to our false ego. That is why humility and tolerance is there. When we say that we are humble, it means we don't think that we are this way. It doesn't matter if someone speaks harshly. It will hurt us for a while. We may have to avoid that association, but we don't hate the people. Or we don't plot against the people. Or we don't hold a grudge against someone. My Guru Maharaj told me, if you hold a grudge against someone, there is one less space for Krishna to sit in your heart. Because the grudge takes up physical space in your heart. You know, some people bear a grudge against someone. It actually affects their health. Have you seen this before? People become so upset with somebody, day and night they think about them, but they don't think about Krishna. Because they're so proud of the fact that, how can someone do this to me? It's me. How can someone hurt me? That means we are very attached to who we are. We are attached to our standing, we are attached to our seniority. Supposing I think I'm very senior devotee, if someone made a statement that hurt me, I become very offended. Oh, I'm a senior devotee, how dare you speak to me like that? Day and night I'm thinking of that. But I don't think of Krishna. What's the point? So please, if your nature is to bear grudges, then we have to seriously work to surround those feelings. Because it will definitely hurt our own Krishna consciousness, not anyone else's. Next question. Can you and Mataji please conduct a seminar on Grihastha Ashram, especially as newcomers? We are struggling in married life as priorities change after is the most challenging ashram of all. Anywhere we go, right, the husband and wife of the Kali, they are bound to be challenged by the forces of the material nature. So yes, the seminar of Varsashram will be very helpful for everyone, but nobody is free of these challenges. But having Krishna in the center and trying to resolve the differences, forgiving each other, not keeping grudges, not counting this day you say this, that day you didn't say this, that kind of diaries, they kill the Varsashram. Live and let live is the way to succeed in Varsashram. If you don't know how to do that, then everything becomes personal. So Krishna consciousness should help us actually. Trinada Pisuni Cheda should help us in marriage, it should help us in work, it should help us in college, it should help us in every station. That's very important. Everyone has a predominant reason to view the mobile. I'm assuming this is the phone. Okay. How can Krishna consciousness help me to come out of mobile predominance, especially for the children who are too much into all application in mobile adventures? That is a big challenge, right? It's not going to go very easily. You must also understand, parents, that this generation, right, were not born into writing on pen and paper. They were also not born into a little bit of mixture, a little bit of social media. They were born into social media. The moment they were born, right, they are given something to see. Have you noticed how if you walk past shopping centers, restaurants, you will see a whole family seated there. The food is in front, but every one of them is looking at their phone, and nobody is talking to each other. Right? So this is not just a phenomenon that affects devotees, it's global. It's global. I would recommend that you don't keep jumping on the fact that they are seeing their mobiles. Because that irritates them, it irritates you, and you will push back. My suggestion is that whenever they are not with the mobile, you spend time with them and engage them in activities which are more Krishna conscious. Or even in conversations that become more connected. Then you will find that there is more quality time that is spent with them. Taking away the mobile, giving some kind of sanction over it, it will work for a while, but after that it won't happen. Yesterday Devakinandan was here, his brother, and he was in the Gurukul, Vrindavan Gurukul, and he was serving there for about maybe a year, 2 years. And Vrindavan Gurukul is a very nice Gurukul in Vrindavan. It's part of ISKCON actually. And he said that there's a strict policy that all mobiles must be surrendered by the students in the Gurukul to the teacher. But what he will do is every morning he will have an inspection to see whether anybody has been having mobiles. And Prabhu was telling me, you will be surprised how innovative the students are in having their mobiles. Right? They were all supposed to drop their mobiles. But Prabhu, what Prabhu will do is he will go and do spot check. So what he will do is he will pick up the mattress, he will look under the mattress. In the beginning they would hide it in the pillowcase, they would hide in the mattress, but then he looked at everything and they would find out that he would find out. So they became more innovative and more creative. You know what they would do? You know the mirror? They would take off the mirror. They would chip into the space of the mirror because the cement is loose, and he would put the mobile phone in there. So if Prabhu doesn't take out the mirror, he wouldn't know there's a mobile phone. You know the socket with the plugs and the pulley? Behind the socket, with wires which are live, they would just launch and put the phone there. These are 13, 14-year-old students. Vrindavan Gurukul, supposed to be very Krishna conscious, but they're obviously very mobile conscious. So, it's going to be everywhere. My suggestion is take the focus away from the mind. Deal with it, right? Give them engagement. Relate with them, talk to them. Gently tell them, if you want to see the Buddha, see it this time. Or at least when we spend time together, you will see it. It will work. And eventually you find that you will get some balance. These things are very difficult to artificially take away. It's going to be very, very difficult. Now, what is the most important thing to do? right now. If a devotee is Krishna conscious right now, Srila Prabhupada says we have been created by Guru atmosphere. Now we are in Lotus Ballroom. This Lotus Ballroom for the last 2.5 days is Vaikuntha for us, isn't it? I mean, I was seeing everyone yesterday for people. This is definitely not Patala Loka. This is not, not the hellish planets. Nobody was behaving like it was hellish planets. It's pure joy. So Prabhupada said, our movement, the aim of our movement and the aim of devotional service is to create love of God. That is our aim. Whenever we wake up in the morning, whenever you are chanting, when you are relating with devotees, never forget the goal. The goal is love of God. And how do you love God? You actually love God on the platform of rendering devotional service to Him. Let these two things be very clear to all of us. When we are clear about it, it doesn't matter whether we will go back or we will not. Because actually, very frankly, you talk to the man on the street and say, you know what is the aim of life? It is to go back to Godhead. He will tell you, I don't even know where I will go after I die. So it's not important to me what happens to me after I die. Tell me the goal of life while I am living. That's what people want to know. And if you tell them you can create, right, heaven on earth. Have you been to Jew Temple? How many of you have been to Jew Temple? Jew Temple's famous project, heaven on earth. Prabhupada used that phrase. He said that Krishna consciousness is like heaven on earth because this is true happiness. Your house can become Vaikuntha. Why go so far? Your very house can become Vaikuntha. Your office can become Vaikuntha. Though maybe it's quite difficult. But office can become Vaikuntha also. But if you don't have Krishna, then wherever you go is never going to be Vaikuntha. So this is a very important point. This is the goal of life. How to ensure that in various relationships we do not get carried away and form attachments, bodily attachment, name and form attachment, and we are attached to the bodies of other devotees. So that's an interesting way of saying it. But what you're trying to say is we become very attached to each other, and we forget that we are devotees. How not to do that? We have to actually take association of each other, right, in such a way that it is like-minded association. Very important. First of all of us now know each other. In this retreat, we all know each other. So when we see each other, we create friendship by saying Hare Krishna to each other. We create friendship by becoming close in service to each other. And very often amongst each other, we will also find that my character gets along better with somebody's character. We click, so to speak. Rupa Goswami says that is like-minded association. In like-minded association, if we put Krishna in the center, the bodily attachments, the material way of relating to each other will diminish. If you both come together and gossip about what happened in the temple today, who or what, how they looked, what they didn't do, then that relationship is not Krishna conscious. So therefore, the more your sadhana is good, the more your relationships will be optimal. If your sadhana is not good, you become disturbed in your relationships. You can test it. If you're doing really good chanting, reading, listening to Prabhupada's lectures, and then you will become very fearful of material association. Remember we spoke about one way to conquer envy? It is to become fearful of material association. Please don't come to the temple to create material attachments. Come to the temple to create spiritual friendships and service. Then you will conquer this challenge. Being a vegetarian, I do feel guilty also because all food we eat is also life. How to overcome this? Why don't you just start from there? It's easier, isn't it? You must understand that our goal of life is not to be a vegetarian. Srila Prabhupada said our goal of life is not to be vegetarian. Even a pigeon is vegetarian, Prabhupada said. What is the big deal? We are trying to be vegetarian so that we don't create violence. We minimize violence. When you read Shastras, have lower sense of consciousness as opposed to food like animals which have a heightened sense of consciousness. Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport that even if we eat food in this world just to subsist, we are already creating sin. Even while sitting here, Prabhu's and Mataji's, Prabhupada says we are breathing in and out. So much of bacteria is going in and it is being killed. So much bacteria is being exhaled and then someone takes it in also. So actually even while we are walking and doing things, we are also killing living entities. It is uncontrollable. Right? Creating karma in this material world is unavoidable. But diminishing it, minimizing it, is what the devotees should do. Which is why whatever that we eat, first of all, it is vegetables. It is at the lowest level of consciousness. Second, we offer it as Krishna Prasad. Very important. And because we offer it, and Krishna has sanctioned offering him a leaf, a fruit, a flower, and water. Therefore, if we offer it to Krishna, what happens? We are then able to be free of the effects of eating vegetarian food. Right? So you're right. Being a vegetarian is not good enough. Being Krishna conscious is the way to purify our habits. Okay? Now this one. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:9, we see that Soma king had Brihaspati's wife Tara and begot Buddha. When demigods perform such acts, how to understand this? The Devatas are not perfect rules and boundaries. Indra sometimes is overtaken by greed. Sometimes Brahma forgets his place. So the Devatas are very advanced personalities. They are exalted devotees because whenever they are in trouble, they always turn to Krishna. So Prabhupada says that they are devotees, but they are not pure devotees. Please remember that. They are also struggling with the material modes of nature because the Devatas are also subjected to the material modes of nature. They are not above the material modes of nature. So of course they will make mistakes from time to time. But don't offend them because their mistakes is much less than the mistakes we make. And they are all exalted personalities authorized by Krishna to perform their functions. But we should not think that they are perfect. This is very important. Next question. Why is Vidura considered as Dasi Putra? His father was Vyasadeva, but his mother was a maidservant. He was supposed to be begotten by either Amma or Ambalika. But what happened was, she could not see, right, the form of Vyasadeva because it was so ugly. And she did not want to conceive a child for him. So then she pushed the maidservant in front and told the maidservant, you go and lie down on the great stage and you pretend to be me. But Vyas Bhagavan knew who she was. But even then, he liked the mood of the maidservant. And he later told his mother Satyavati in Mahabharata that actually this maidservant's mood is the best amongst the two of the princes who was given to me. They were very attached to beauty. They were attached to the physical manifestation. But this maidservant was attached to service. And she performed her service. Therefore, the child that comes out of the union of Vyasadeva and this maidservant Vyasadeva said will be a great personality, a very spiritual personality, a very detached personality, and therefore Vidura was actually born. Why Bhishma did not accept karma as Kshatriya, as per Bhagavad Gita Chaturmanyam Maya Shrishta? He did not accept karma as Kshatriya because karma's behavior was anything but that of a Kshatriya. You are quoting the verse 413 in Bhagavad Gita, but you missed the point of 413. 413 actually says that the four divisions of our society are not based on birth, they are based on merit. Therefore, Arjuna was a Kshatriya not because he could shoot an arrow, but he was a Kshatriya because his behavior was truly noble and chivalrous. Karma's behavior was not noble and chivalrous. So many instances in Mahabharata, karma actually sided with Duryodhana. If one is a Kshatriya, one will never side with irreligion. One will never side with immorality. And therefore karma is not considered to be a Kshatriya. because of the lack of his behavior. So I hope that clarifies the issue. Please, while I'm reading it, if suddenly you feel that something is not clear, just put up your hands and you can clarify. Or if I missed something, senior devotees and other devotees, please come in and step in and please either correct me or remind me of something that I have forgotten. Right? It's not a one-way street. I didn't expect so many players. Okay, it's 10 o'clock already. Okay. How much time should a working person ideally spend with Prabhupada's books every day? This is a good question. I'll give you 2 ways to do this from my experience. One, you read Prabhupada's books by setting aside a certain fixed time every day. My recommendation for those who are working is frankly half an hour. Half an hour is doable, it is also practical, and if you tell yourself you can't spare half an hour in your day, then better go to the lecture. Because half an hour really is very possible. If you say, oh, my work is just too much, and I need that half an hour to crash out in front of the TV, okay, fine. Then my second option to you is, you steal time. Through the day, whenever you have time, you pick up the book and you read through the book. But do it systematically. So supposing I want to read a purport and a verse. I start the morning by reading 10 minutes the verse. Then I read the purport very quickly. Then what happens is I leave it. Then later lunchtime I have a bit of time. I go back to the purport. And I go back to the verse. So that I deepen my understanding of it. Then after lunchtime, maybe people have a tea break. I have a bit of time. I look at it again. And I study it again. And when I come home, maybe I'm too busy with family and everyone. Just before I sleep, I look at the verse again. You have spent maybe 5-10 minutes here and there. But you put them all together. How many times have you looked at the verse a day? It will really help you. I found this also to be useful. Time belongs to Krishna. If you use time for Krishna, Krishna will give you time. If you say Krishna, I have no time, you miss the point. He will say at least you have no Krishna, because Krishna is time. The other way is steal time before time steals you. Very often time steals us, but we should steal time for Krishna. I have a third option for you. If you can't do either of this, then you become a weekend reader. Some devotees find this helpful. Monday to Friday, they chant, they do their RTs, they do whatever they have to do. But on Saturday and Sundays, they dedicate serious time to read and write and study Shanti Gospels. Also very good. But please don't do this study method for your chanting. Don't become weekend chanters. Prabhu, I can't do my chanting from Monday to Friday. Saturday, Sunday, I will do a very good job. Please don't do that. Prabhu's books, right, have the ability to be very different in the way you read them, but you must read them. You must read them. So my option is half an hour a day if you can. If you can't, steal time. If you cannot put aside time on Saturday and Sundays. If you have more time, please read 1 hour if you can. Ideally, if you can, you've got nothing else to do in life, then you should read 2 hours every day. But even to read 2 hours a day, Kali is becoming very difficult. Even if you are retired and you have time, it is still extremely difficult. Not easy. Now, what is this here? Okay, this is nice. A big thank you for your continuous prayers for our welfare and prayers for our spiritual development. I like this kind of question. It was a prayer. So this is a very nice prayer. Please remember the prayer that we started our seminar with, 589. That prayer is a prayer we should pray every day, which is very important. Our progress in devotional service is dependent on our progress in humility. Very nice statement. But as we become seniors, it is difficult to be and practice humility. How to increase our endeavor to become humble? Very nice point. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually showed this royal road of humility. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most senior of all singers. But because he was so humble, and he always was in the mood of being servant of the servant of the servant. So the way to inculcate humility is das and das and das. The more, in fact, it is stated by Prabhupada, the more advanced you are as a devotee, the more humble you are. That is the symptom of a great devotee. Just like a tree which has a lot of fruits, the branches are low because of the fruits. But when there are no fruits, the branches are very high. So actually, if we have Krishna consciousness, and if we understand that we are all servants of the servants, in that mood, no matter how many years we are in service, no matter how many years we are young in Krishna consciousness, the service mood will never go. It never goes. This is very important. You see all the great devotees, like Uddhava, for example. In Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, it is stated that Uddhava became very old. But even though he was old, he never thought himself to be senior. He always was ready to continuously serve the devotees. So service is the secret to humility actually. If you are senior and you start telling yourself, why should I come for programs? I'm a bit old now. I don't have to come. After so many years of Krishna consciousness, that is not very helpful because staying at home alone is one thing, but having Sangha is another thing. We have very good examples in our congregation. Kaushika Mataji is here. I'm not saying she's old, but she's here, right? And she comes to every Saturday program, and she did for the retreat. Shukadeva Prabhu Subhadhi Mataji. There you go. And they are all in the same batch of devotees who spend years building Krishna consciousness in this group in Singapore. But they're here. I see so many senior Vaishnavas here, right? Madhumata whose father is here, Mataji is also here, Sunaya Mataji is here, Subhadhi Mataji is here. It's not easy for them. But even then, they're very happy. And the moment you give them a chance to do service, they will do service. They never stop giving service. So this is the mood of the devotee. Not that once I get older, less service must be. No. The service mood of the devotee never changes. Never ever changes. It's very important. Right? While I'm taking the other text, if someone look at 323, well, I think it is there. And then you will come back to me after that if you get.
Jesus and never becomes slacker. Generally pleases and never becomes slacker. Generally, in old age, a person is allowed retirement for mundane service. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no retirement at all. On the contrary, the service attitude increases more and more with the progress of age. In the transcendental service, there is no satiation, and therefore there is no retirement.
There is no retirement. The more senior we are, the more we are doing service.
Materially, when a man becomes tired by rendering service in his physical body, he is allowed retirement. But in the transcendental service, there is no feeling of fatigue because it is spiritual service and it is not on the bodily plane. Service on the bodily plane dwindles as the body grows older, but the spirit is never old. And therefore, on the spiritual plane, the service is never tiresome.
See, perfect Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has answered everything that we have. It's there. It's so good. It tells us that this is how senior devotees actually function. And if you speak to Kaushika Mataji, Sunaya Mataji, Subhadhi Mataji, you speak to Bharat Prabhu, you speak to Shukadeva Prabhu, you talk to them, and they will tell you how they feel about service. They will tell you. And they will never feel that, oh, I feel very senior, people must do service for me. They will do the service themselves. This is very interesting. One consumer brand has a tagline: neighbors envy, owners pride. Neighbors envy, owners pride. Sometimes we enjoy the feeling of so many people being envious of us. Oh, that is amazing. How do we overcome it? For so many people to be envious of you, you must be really something. I don't know whether you're referring to yourself here, or you're referring to sometimes we think, we are really great. But actually we should not feel that way. Because even if we are an instrument for someone else's envy, we're not happy with them actually. We're not really happy. So that's a very subtle way to increase our pride. Because others are envious of us actually. It's a terrible thing, but it happens, it happens. We all have envy, but due to the mode of denial, we are not accepting and trying to overcome it. How to fix this? Very good point. And I think the mode of denial is a big problem for all of us. You know, this is what we meant yesterday in seminar when we spoke about seeing the mirror. Sometimes we deny that we are behaving in a certain way because no one is showing us the mirror. But someone has to show the mirror to those who deny. That is why you need seniors. That is why you need leaders. And that's why, on your own, each one of us, we must always pray to Krishna that we never become so proud that we cannot understand that we should be checked by others. We must always be open to being checked by others. You know, sometimes it's a problem. If a senior devotee or devotee comes and says, Mataji or Prabhu, you should not do this. Or why didn't you attend this program when you were supposed to? If you become very sensitive about it, it is denial. Please remember that. You should not become sensitive about it. You should say, this devotee is asking me that question for my benefit. Because through this devotee, Krishna is asking me, why didn't you attend it? It's not right. You know, I know in some temples, I had this situation in a temple in India. There are devotees who put their names down in the rosters. You know, this is it's like, you know, you have congregation coming to help different kind of brahmacharis. So what they do is they put their names down in the rosters. But after putting their names down there, they never turn up. They never turn up. They don't say why. They don't give a reason. How irresponsible is that? Even in material world, people don't do that. But in spiritual world, they just right there. They put it in every week. And this brahmachari was in charge of that area. He was telling me, Prabhu, what do I tell to these people? They put their names all there. And they never turn up. And one day, this brahmachari spoke to the person and said, why, Mataji, are you doing this? Either you want to come or you don't come. And the devotee got very offended. Oh, that means you don't want me to come. That's not what he said. And she said, I don't want to go. And the brahmachari had to go to the temple president. Temple president called her in and he told her, there are rules in Krishna consciousness we have to follow. And one of the most important rules is to be humble when someone is pointing out a flaw in you. Be humble. Learn from mistakes. Have you heard that? Learn from mistakes. And learn to hear from others who are your well-wishers. Very important. So if we are really a close congregation, we should not become touchy about these things. If someone older to you, more senior to you, or even your peers are telling you, don't do this, it's not good for you, listen to them. They are the voice of Krishna. Otherwise, how are you going to grow in your devotional service? If you're so sticky and petty and sensitive, you'll never grow. No, have you heard of this flower, touch me not? You've heard of it, right? Devotees, if they're not careful, will become like that. Touch me not. I will do it today, I want to do it. You tell me something, I will leave. That is not how Krishna consciousness is. This is not how it is. So I hope this is how we should get out of the mode of denial. Sometimes we desire for time of some devotees, but they are always busy. It happens time of the day. So one does feel bad. How do we solve this? This is a practical problem because devotees are always busy. But if you think that something is very important and you really need to speak to the devotee because it is important, I suggest you communicate it. Don't just keep it in your mind, casually say, Prabhu, just come, or Mataji, please, I want to talk to you. Say, this is urgent, I need to discuss this with you, I need some time with you. The devotee does not want to ignore you, but sometimes you must understand that devotees themselves have families, they have children, they have jobs, they have so many things on their mind. It may not always be easy for them to give you time. So be understanding about it and express this that it is very important that you always possible to give pride to everyone. This is important. Next question. Prabhu, you and many others are doing so well in corporate life. How do you balance spiritual versus corporate versus family life? If office demands more study and time, how to balance? How to balance? Okay. This is very difficult because what do you define as success? That really is the question here. If you're a devotee and you've come to a point of life where you want to work just to keep everything together, then you will prioritize your spiritual life. But at the same time, you cannot minimize your working. Because in Krishna consciousness, if you work well and you offer it to Krishna, that is devotion service. So a devotee works concentratedly when they have to work. But once they finish working, they don't linger in their work. That is very important. Sometimes we linger with the work that we have. In fact, my mom used to tell me, if you're very efficient in your work, you will definitely be able to finish everything within a time. And you will always know that there is no such thing as being able to finish the work. Because every day, there will always be something that's piling up on your desk. So you have to make a choice. The only way to balance your work and sadhana is to prioritize one, but don't neglect the other. You prioritize one, but don't neglect the other. You do the other with a little less energy, but offer it to Krishna. But always know that your foundation is spiritual life. But at the same time, you need food on the table. You need shelter. So therefore, a Vaishnava can work. We're not shelters, we're workers. But we know where is the place of work in our lives. And in that way, Krishna will take care of us. Always remember one thing. Source of income is not the source of maintenance. Srila Prabhupada makes a famous statement. The source of income is not the source of maintenance. Which means, income you earn, but Krishna maintains you. You can have all the money in the world, but you can still die alone. Or you can have not much money in the world, but you can live for a long time. Who maintains you? Krishna maintains you. He maintains you. So, it is not that we have to think that I have to balance all of this. You have to prioritize Krishna and put Krishna in your work, in your family, as well as your spiritual life. If you see the hand of Krishna, then you will be alright. That is how many successful devotees navigate this material world. How shall I decide when to forgive, when to reciprocate, so that I am not showing cowardice and lack of humility? Actually, we don't have to be worried whether we are being cowards or not. That is a symbol of pride. Sometimes we feel that we should not forgive someone because if we don't forgive them, then we have the upper hand. Sometimes people do that. Remember yesterday we spoke about envy and we spoke about the high moral ground. Someone may be morally right, but he may be spiritually wrong. Why? Because that person may be harsh, may not learn how to forgive, may be very proud of being very high in moral grounds. But what is the point? If we are not devotees, we are not humble. Rather, Krishna would rather an imperfect devotee serve him than a perfect moralist who does not actually serve him. So, it is not a question of when to forgive, and it is not a question of when to reciprocate. It is a question of letting loose your own pride. Don't concentrate on that person. Concentrate on why you cannot forgive someone. What is it that they have done which is so amazing, so terrible that you cannot forgive them? We all must learn to forgive because Krishna has forgiven us so many times. And that is why we are here to live in retreat. Because 100 lives have passed, 100 million lives have passed. We have done things that we should not have done. And yet here we are, being given a chance to take up our retreat. That's how we should see it. There's never a good time to reciprocate, never a bad time to forgive. This is a very important point to remember. Can I take this teaching to reduce everything in the corporate world as it is. Like 3 areas of relationship, junior, senior, same level. Yes, we can. In fact, you can apply the same concept even in the material world. Seniors, you always must respect them because they are the ones who are your mentors in the corporate world. Equals, you should be careful not to envy them, but you must always be able to work with them. And therefore, competition is part of it, but friendship is also necessary. The third thing that's important is you will always have people under you in the corporate world. You will always have to take care of them. You become their mentors, and you guide them in whatever they do. So the same principles actually are very, very useful in this material world. They are, they really are. Some devotees are ignorant about their physical health. A humble request to have a class on the importance of a healthy body, which will support us in the path of bhakti. Alright, this is very important. I agree with you. I think devotees very often are not the healthiest actually. You know, Bhaktivedanta Hospital is doing very well by the way. Right? If you ask the devotees running in Mahaprabhu Prabhu, he will tell you Prabhu, there is no shortage of patients. And a lot of patients are devotees. Why? Because as they come into Krishna consciousness, they don't regulate their lifestyle, especially their eating. It all begins with eating. In the name of Krishna Prasada, we have a good time. But we don't realize, sometimes we don't balance our diet. Very often we don't even exercise. Devotees have this idea that if I exercise in the Maya, why am I wasting time exercising?
Yes.
Krishna will take care of me until you get your first heart attack. And then you will think, oh, okay, fine, I gotta start moving a bit, gotta start walking a bit. It's ridiculous actually to think that this body will continue, but you torture it actually with excess food, with no diet, no balance, and most of all, no movement. Srila Prabhupada encouraged his disciples to swim. He encouraged me to jump on walks. How fast was Srila Prabhupada when he was walking and jump on walks? Disciples couldn't even keep up with him. If you think of the number of jump on walks that Srila Prabhupada took, daily he was exercising. What was he doing? He was doing aerobic activity, if you want to put it that way. 90% of us don't even walk for half an hour a day. I don't think I'm very far from it, when I say that. I'm not saying it because I'm looking at you, but I'm saying it because it's a fact. Many of us don't even do that. But I tell you one thing, this body is not your property. Shastra says that this body is the property of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore you have the obligation, you have the duty to upkeep this body so that you are fit to use it for Krishna consciousness. That's very, very important. Very important. This is an essay, so I was really first. How to grasp the depth of the Gita, how to not get distracted while reading the shlokas, and how to understand it fully. The only way to understand the Gita, Srila Prabhupada says in the introduction, is to be submissive when you read it. You should read it by accepting that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that whatever that is stated in the Gita is truth and absolute truth. If you start your day by reading the Gita that way, everything that you cannot understand becomes revealed. Another point that's important to read the Gita, read it with devotees. Yes, read it on your own. That must go on. But try to find devotees that you can sit with and read. Because then their realizations will be very helpful for you, and your realizations will be helpful. That's why in our congregations we have the read and relish program. The read and relish, we call it R&R, right? Rest and recreation. For us it's really relish. We have devotees all around Singapore who just come together lunchtime, anytime, just sit, read one shloka, read 2 shlokas, and they become so happy with the Gita. That's the mood to accept the Gita. I'm studying now, and there's already a lot of memory work and studies to do. I've been finding it difficult to run temple classes regularly. I haven't been able to study the Gita at home on my own. It seems like another textbook to me. How do I overcome this problem? Very nice point. If you find that you have no time to read the Gita, it's okay. Don't make it into a textbook, I agree. What you should do is actually hear lectures on the Gita. That's very easy. There are so many wonderful lectures by great personalities and devotees in our movement. You take up systematically the study of the Gita. Chaitanya Charan has done an amazing list of studying the Gita. Right? So many Gauranga Darshan, these are all wonderful, realized devotees. Hear them. At least it will be different from just reading the Gita. But what I would advise you to do is find some time at least once a month to come together with a fellow devotee and read the Gita. You will find that also beneficial for your friendship and for the Gita. Try to do that first. But if you can't read the Gita every day, read it maybe once a week. Or hear a lecture on the Gita every day. It's okay. Sometimes what I do, for example, is I take one lecture and I hear the lecture through the week. I just take my time and hear it and hear it and hear it. I just break it up and hear it. So after 1 week, whatever shloka that's in the lecture is embedded in my heart. So that is a very good way to study it. In Singapore, we have Grasta Ashrama mentors to help families, couples to understand each other in a better way in their life and walk together towards a meaningful life path of Krishna consciousness. This is being practiced in India. If you have issues in your Grasta Ashrama, please come and see me. That's it. Right? I'll be happy to talk to you. And we will try to connect you with devotees who are experienced and have the wisdom to share with you how to navigate the Grasta Ashrama. Right? That's what we will do. The scripture, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, are voluminous. You tend to forget the previous chapter as you progress. How do we, that's one question. How do we read these scriptures meaningfully? Please give us some ideas. Do we need to learn verses by heart? Very good question. No, you don't have to learn the verses by heart. But if you see a verse you like, then you should learn it. That verse is meant for you. Sometimes you read 3 verses, hey, this verse appeals to me. Write it down in a notebook and study it. That verse is meant for you. Okay, so that is a good way to study it. Then, how do we read the scriptures meaningfully? I think quality is better than quantity. You want to read it meaningfully, you take a little bit of the scripture and study it. And write some notes about it. Read it, reflect on it. That is a much more meaningful exercise than giving yourself a quota. I have to finish first chapter by 1 week. I have to finish second chapter by 1 week. That's like ticking the boxes. That's the danger. That's the danger sometimes of studying scriptures in that way. Study scriptures with your heart, not with your mind, not with your intelligence, but with your heart. Sit down and read it. Stop. Think about it. What is Krishna trying to tell me? Write what you understand from it. Share it with your devotee. Go on to the next verse. How meaningful it will be. It will stay with you. It will guide you. That is how we should study. And don't worry whether Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita are voluminous. Yes. And you know why you tend to forget the previous chapter? Why? Anybody? Yes. Why do we tend to forget the previous chapter? Anyone? Sorry? Yeah, sometimes we are in a rush to complete that chapter, to go on to the next chapter, so we forget the previous chapter. Sometimes that's what happens, you see. Another reason why we forget the previous chapter is actually Krishna's mercy, so we will have to come back to read it again. And that's very good. Right? That's very good. This is... Yes, Guru. Yes. So that's a very useful way of doing things. So don't feel intimidated by the size of the scripture. I don't know why sometimes devotees have a habit of thinking that they have to finish it. You don't have because of the material way you think. Don't do that. What you study, I like the word they use here, meaningfully. Do it with your heart. Otherwise, it will go. It will go. Now it's 10:30. Shamil Guru, what time do we close? I want to see people for 15 minutes before we close. Okay, because by 11 we have to start moving to get our things so that we can come back, right? Okay, so Prabhu's Prabhuji, we have wife out here. I want to answer these. I don't know how I'm going to answer them, but let me think of a way to answer them. But right now, humanly, I think in the next 5-10 minutes we can continue, and then we should wind down by chanting Krishna's names so that we're in the right frame of mind to worship Jagannath and pray. Is that all right with you?
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. So let me try to read this. If a senior brahmachari or sannyasi visiting Singapore, and we have plans for visiting Dham, what should we choose? Serve the Vaishnava and the Dham visit. Okay. Actually, the answer, of course, if you have booked the Dham, that's one thing, but you'll probably pay for your tickets, right? And if you cancel your tickets, you're going to also spend a lot of money. The practical thing is, if you already have plans to visit the Dham, please visit the Dham. But if you feel that the sannyasi or the guru who's coming is the Dham, and it's a walking Dham, and you want to stay back together, then please do so. But if you go to the Dham just to look around and buy new goods and dresses and other things for the deities, and you forget to hear in the Dham, then you miss it. The point of going to Dham is to serve devotees and hear devotees. Other things are ancillary. That's a very important thing, right? So I don't think it depends on what your situation is. But if you've already made plans and you have to go, then please go. But if you can somehow or other not go and you can see this exalted devotee and hear this exalted devotee, then you should hear them. I think it's very important. How do we control our mind? Not to feel that some people are more luckier than others. Actually, every one of us thinks the other is luckier. If you think about it, I always think that this person's life is a bit better than mine. My life is very bad. Without exception, Bhagavatam tells us we are all suffering. No one is luckier than the other. You are lucky now, but when your time is not with you, you will become very unlucky. And you may be unlucky now, but 10 years later you will be owning this resort. Who knows? By the way, the resort is for sale. Seriously, right? And I was told that they are ready to release the resort for 100 million Singapore dollars. And we are looking at it in a certain way. Right? If you ever know someone who has nothing to do with their money and they have it, who knows? If we have such a place, right? I mean, two things will happen. If someone has 100 million, our first catch them to buy Uranga Center. Because we need a home there. And then we could take a little bit more to try and get something there. Imagine if this one Singapore, this one Malaysia, and this one Southeast Asia came out together and jointly got a place like this. You imagine the kind of facilities we have and the kind of things we can do here. It's amazing. Plus we have a beach. So what was I saying? How to control my mind, not to feel that some people are more luckier than others. So no one is luckier than the other. Everyone will have his time. Sometimes your time is good. Sometimes your time is not good. But I'll tell you one thing. If you ever feel someone is luckier than you, then you are envious of them. You are envious of them. If you want to deny, go ahead. But that's the reason why you feel. If you feel I always have to score when someone doesn't have to score, someone is doing very nicely, actually it is a representation of envy, which we must counter. It is not that you want to be envious of a person, but you are just not happy with your situation. That means there is no self-satisfaction in the heart. That whatever Krishna has given for me is for my good. I will accept it and I will grow to deal with it. In that mood, Krishna will help me. I have have seen many devotees actually do that. In Bhagavad Gita, one woman had been called, in Bhagavad Gita, women have been called less intelligent. Such purpose makes it very hard for us to teach to true devotees. How do we explain statements like this? Very simple. When the Bhagavad Gita says that women are less intelligent, it's very important for you to sit down and explain what that means. Less intelligence from the point of the Gita is the ability to understand that we are this body, but we are not this body and we are the soul. That is the point of it. And why is it that women are considered to have more challenges? Because of the construct of the social society. They tend to be bombarded with so many more potential attachments. And because their nature is nurturing, and because their nature is to take care of things, to keep things together, it is more natural that they will be actually at a position of disadvantage than a man. A man in the name of being the father can walk away and spend a whole day outside and not care about what is happening. But it is left to the mother to care for everything. So who is actually doing more actually? So actually it's a matter of perspective. We should also tell devotees that in the history of Vaishnava culture, some of the greatest devotees have been women. What we accept in Vaishnava culture is that no man or woman is superior or inferior. Men and women were made differently and they excel in different skills. But you put them together and they will be able to do the right things for Krishna. It doesn't mean today that a woman cannot work. In fact, 90% of women who work are probably better in output or just as good in output as men. So there is no difference in that way. From a Krishna conscious perspective, we should understand our roles. My Guru Maharaj, for example, never stopped any of his lady disciples from working. If the time, place, and circumstances demanded it, he said, "Let me work." After all, if two people need to put food on the table, then it has to be done. So when we approach the Gita in that way, and we explain to people that this is not the perspective of my experience, it's always good. It's always good. So this is a very important point for us to know. Are we supposed to believe in all superstitions that exist, such as breaking of a glass, a black cat walking past you? Okay.
The point of
Women, yes,
women. So recently I was actually also telling somebody had posted me asking feedback for
a bit louder.
somebody had posted a feedback for you when they had the woman discussing the topic.
Yes.
I had to do some research to respond to that. There's a lot of, in fact, a lot of responding back about it and saying how better from California.
Yes.
And he has something very Chakra was also in his
Yes. Spiritual
spiritual
science.
science, so he's in a lot of information. So there's a lot of information.
There is. There is. So it's not that we don't have the information. It's how we use it. That's very important. Thank you. Superstitions, breaking of glass, a black cat. Actually, once you take up Krishna consciousness, these things will be good. That doesn't mean you wouldn't break the glass. Right? That doesn't mean you kill the black cat or you don't care about the black cat. It doesn't really matter to us. What is really important for us? Superstitions very often have no basis in substance. They don't. They do. And therefore we should be very clear that which is not in substance is something that we don't have to do. It's very important. So I think the answer is quite clear. Some people find it difficult to be consistent in doing services for Krishna. Does that affect an individual negatively? Yes, it does. It does. If you are not consistent in your service, then what will happen is that your lack of consistency will not allow you to be performing service in an uninterrupted way. The reason for me this question is more important, not because of the fact that this person is asking about consistency, but the reason why we are not consistent is important. Bhagavatam tells us you will not be consistent in devotional service until your motive for performing devotional service is correct. You get your motive correct and it will be consistent. That is the formula. You know clearly why you are doing service to Krishna, and Krishna will make sure not be independent. It will not be independent. Do you remember when His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, there was a YouTube video of Maharaj in bed. And in bed, right, while he's sleeping, he's actually doing arati for his devotees. At that age, with so many years of service, even if his condition or for whatever reason he was not able to perform it, the fact that he could do it while he was actually in his sleep shows you how consistent he has been in his service. But more important than that, it shows us the pure devotional mood in which he had completed his service. That is why Krishna has always given him the potency to be consistent. Anywhere Maharaj will go, in any temple, 90% of the time you will see him as one of the pujaris for Mangalarati. He may have arrived at the temple at 2:30 in the morning. Juhu one time, he arrived at 2:30 a.m. And I remember talking to his servant and saying that Maharaj needs some rest that day. And he said, no, Maharaj told me that I'll be ready and I'll be ready for Mangalarati. He was not ready just for Mangalarati. He was doing pujari service. This is the mood that is needed to become consistent. Okay? New generation of youth have lost faith in marriage due to influence of today's day and age. How to explain to them the importance of marriage? Now I want to ask the question for this question. Are you worried that the child is not getting married? Or are you worried that the child wants to cohabit and not get married? I don't know whether you will answer me here, but I will give you answers to two. If you are worried that the child is going to find someone and they don't want to get married, then it's important for you to talk to them about the sanctity of marriage. I would also advise them as a lawyer how dangerous it is to be cohabiting without marriage. Because once you buy a house together and you're cohabiting in the first place, or you own properties together, when you decide that you can't live with each other, you cannot have claim over each other's assets. Okay? This is a very practical thing. And I'm telling you, when I tell this to the younger generation, very quickly next week they register to get married. It's a good way to get them to get married because they're more concerned about that. But if you're concerned about the other point, that they don't want to get married, that's a different story. Sometimes in this Kali Yuga, you will find that a lot of people don't want to get married because they think, why should I stay with someone? My suggestion is, don't force anyone into marriage. Because as parents, you force someone into marriage and the marriage doesn't work out, they will blame you for life. And the pain that you feel for putting them through something because it had to satisfy you is very dangerous. Very dangerous. I remember one of my god sisters came to see Maharaj in London, and she said that Maharaj, everyone's possibly to get married. I'm just learning a little bit, I want to do some service to Krishna. What should I do? Maharaj said, marriage, only you can get married. Your parents cannot get married to this person. So you must be able to be ready for it. If you're not, please do. And Krishna will protect you whether you're married or not married. So according to time, place, and circumstances, you decide. But take your time and don't rush it. Sometimes you think, oh my God, she's 35 years old, she's on the expiring shelf. She's too old, or he's too old. These considerations are social. But the important thing is the happiness of our children. Okay, one last one. This one is just amazing. This one needs to be another retreat. How did we fall into the material world? Do you know in this one, devotees can't even agree on this. But I think I should say something practical. Oh, what about the essay? The essay came earlier. Okay. Can we sing Hari Haraya Namaha Bhajan during Mangalarati? We have heard in Mayapur and Vivadi station and Vivadi, but never heard in Singapore. Please elaborate on this, as sometimes devotees sing whole bhajan during Mangalarati. In ISKCON, permission has been given in Mayapur and Vrindavan for this. But in all other temples, generally speaking, it is Guru Ashokam. There's a little bit of Hari Namaha is fine. You can sing that. One line, two lines, like the way Mataji sang, Prabhu sang, that's accepted. In ISKCON, no, it's accepted. not the whole song. And except for Vrindavan, nowhere else do we sing realization. We don't do that. That's the GBC's law. Okay? During Tulsi Arati, Parikrama, if the altar is open as Srila Prabhupada's picture is there, we don't cross over, but we make a circle and continue next round. When doing at home, the altar is closed. Please elaborate as many as possible the reason for not crossing over from one altar. Actually, if the altar is here, we have to circle. But as we turn, we do a turn here not to put our back to the deities. So if you're at home and you're doing this Arati, you need to move around, right? It's alright if the deity picture is there because this is home worship. It's not, it's very flexible. Tulsi Mata won't get angry and the deities will not get angry. So this is actually a detail, it is not a principle. When we deal with new devotees, we become impatient and think if we could take up and think if we could take Krishna consciousness so fast, why can't they stop tea, coffee quickly? And why are they not taking up more services? As a teacher, how do we develop patience? The best way to develop patience is actually to understand that every living entity is on a journey. On a journey. That's what it is. And they need time. And time is Krishna. So the more patient we are with them, the more ready they will come to Krishna consciousness. Just like Prabhupada was patient with Shamsundar smoking, just like he was patient with so many of his disciples doing so much of nonsense, we should also be patient. And don't forget, not every one of us gave up everything easily, but some devotee was patient with us, some devotee was loving with us, and that is what we are here. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Ananda Gauri Vaishnava